Canada's a wonderful country. I came here 46 years ago, and anything I've done would not have happened if I didn't come to Canada. So Canada's a fantastic country, a country that, I didn't know anyone. I came with almost no money, and people supported me for my first job, for the money to fund Fairfax when we began. So Canada's a wonderful country. And but we have to be careful because we have the United States as our partners next to us. And when they get very business-friendly policies, then by comparison, ours are less friendly. And so if we're attracting investment, then of course the investment could go to the United States as opposed to Canada. But we benefit from the fact that we're next to the US, so that if the US does well, we do well.
You arrived here, as the legend goes, with 8 rupees in your pocket. It might have been $8. You found your way, you got an education, you got a good job.
Yeah.
It was a good, steady job. That was the success story.
Yeah.
And then you decided to buy a company. What was it about you, your background or your experiences, that made you take that giant
I wish I could
gamble?
say there was some experience. My dad was a teacher, so no business experience at all.
Yeah.
He didn't really care about business. He cared about the fact that I had a good education. So I had an engineering degree before I came to Canada, and I was fortunate to go to the Ivy Business School. But it was just an opportunity that I was in the investment business, and I was in the investment business for about 8 or 9 years, and this company didn't believe in great place to work, but not enough incentives, and so that someone came and hired me, Gardner Watson, as it were, you might have read, and they hired me and got me a job as a portfolio manager. But then they felt that they were being, their business was suffering from commissions because their clients said, Prem's going to compete with their clients. So we had to set up our own company, Hamlin Watson Investment Counsel, and that was like 1983. And then there I met, in Gardner Watson though, I met a fellow who told me about the float. This is 83, right, long time ago, about Buffett. We studied Henry Singleton, and we studied Larry Tisch, and that's when I was introduced to the float. And a little company called Markel Financial was available in 1985 with, having financial problems. I got to meet them, and one thing led to another, and we took control of that company. That's how Fairfax began.
Renamed it Fairfax. That was trucking insurance, and that was the beginning. Then you began to build this insurance empire.
So it was trucking insurance, and it was called Markel Financial, the holding company, and the insurance company was called Markel Insurance, trucking insurance. So we thought we'd expand, and Markel Financial, the name didn't apply because there was going to be more than one subsidiary. So we changed it. You go to your board, you go to your management. Our secretary said, you talk about friendly acquisitions. How about fair, friendly acquisitions, AX, Fairfax. Stuck. We bought first 100 shares that traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange as Fairfax. We bought it for her, put it in a nice little, sort of a poster, and gave it to us. And till she retired, she hadn't sold it because she put it in her walls. I think she's happy with it.
As
today.
you were building what has become an insurance empire, did the incumbents see you as somebody to try to trip up? I mean, you grew by acquisition.
It's funny, they didn't. We were 10 million in premiums. You could have squashed us, right? And that's why I say there's huge opportunity in Canada, and whatever area you do, you have to provide very good service, to be focused, and you have to look after the people who you employ, and you've got to be in the free enterprise system. You've got to make a return. But we talk of a return over time. We don't talk about any return in 3 months or 6 months. We're always long term, and then in our case, we give back to the communities we do business. When our company began, the whole company, before we financed it, was worth $2 million. In the last 3, 4, 5 years, Amanda, we have reinvested in the communities worldwide about 20 to 25 million. So the free enterprise system, capitalism, is a fantastic system. I've experienced it, and it's one that I'm a great proponent of, because I just think it's such a wonderful system, open to everyone.
Do you ever invest in the investment portfolio emotionally? Is there ever a secondary reason for the investment?
If I do, there's enough people around me that'll stop me.
So BlackBerry wouldn't be an example of kind of Canadian loyalty or old friendship?
BlackBerry I got to know through the founders, and they had requested me to go on the board. And the reason we put a lot of money on in that company was because of John Chen. John Chen is an outstanding executive, long track record. And I met him just like that in San Francisco, and it's like you and I are chatting, and he had a terrific turnaround at a company called Sybase, and then he says, bought every BlackBerry that existed, and I really don't want this company to go down. So I said, would you look at perhaps joining the company? And he said, I got to talk to my wife, but if she says yes, I will. And she said yes, and he joined us. So it was John Chen. If he hadn't come, we likely wouldn't have put any money.
And is it going the way you had hoped it would go?
It's funny in the tech business. It's, you have all the downsides of technology. Something new comes in, Apple versus BlackBerry, and Apple does really well, BlackBerry sales go down. But you can change that around. And so what he's done is he's gone into software, and he's building software now. And when he came in, the company was losing $1 billion, as you might remember. It's broken even. They got $2.5 billion in cash, and a ton of opportunity ahead of them. So John in Sybase, the stock was about $4 or $5 when he came in. Most people thought it would go bankrupt in the next year or two, and he didn't. He wanted to stabilize it, and then 10 years later, he sold it for $65 to SAP. So it's the long term, but that rate of return from 5 to 65 is a pretty good rate of return.